This period of crisis has been difficult, obviously, as a financial matter, as a business operator, but it has also been difficult mentally and emotionally. It's critical to keep your head in the game, keep your head clear, keep your eye on the prize, and your mind right for your business to economically recover and thrive. Our next guest is going to join us to talk about some ways that you can do that, how to stay motivated, how to stay focused and positive in the face of adversity, such as we've been facing here in the economy over the past 6 months. Jesse Itzler is a serial entrepreneur, and he was one of the founders of Marquis Jet. He's a best-selling author, an influential blogger, and even owns part of an NBA franchise. We'll talk about that and more as I turn it over to CNBC's senior markets reporter, big sports fan, and my friend Dominic Chu. Dom.
Tyler, thank you so much for that introduction. And this is a fantastic introduction because you talked about the adversity, you talked about being adaptable and flexible, and that's what every small business owner needs to be these days. And Jesse Itzler is one of those people who can really speak to this notion of getting your mind right. So, Jesse, thank you very much for being with us here. You know, a lot of our viewers out there know that I'm a sports fan, love sports. I'm also a big golfer. And one of the greatest golfers of all time was a guy named Bobby Jones, who hailed from not far down from where you are in Atlanta, or at least where the Atlanta Hawks are. And he said that competitive golf is basically played mainly on a 5.5-inch field. And it's the 5.5 inches between your ears. And it speaks to just this idea that mentality is so key. What exactly, then, is the difference between how small business owners have to approach their mindset, their mentality, versus anybody else out there who works for a paycheck?
Well, I think for starters, small business owners have an advantage. They can live out of the box. They're not reporting to anybody. They can make their own hours and time, and they can pivot quickly. And pivoting quickly is so critical, especially in today's climate where businesses now, that were built on lunch meetings and face-to-face have to pivot and adapt to getting meetings via Skype and Zoom and FaceTime and other resources. So small businesses are better equipped to pivot and make changes quicker than big institutional organizations. This is also a time where creativity thrives, where those that think out of the box and rewrite their narrative have a better chance of success. And again, that falls into the lap of the small business owner.
What happens, though, Jesse? I mean, it's very, I've heard it so many times that it takes a certain amount of creativity, some ingenuity, that sort of thing. For many of us out there, myself included, I think to myself, I don't have a creative bone in my body. I don't know exactly how people get through these types of things. What exactly then do you have to do to nurture those types of muscles in your mind? How do you go about creating some of that ingenuity, some of that kind of adaptability that small business owners really need to thrive, especially in this kind of environment with COVID-19?
Yeah, well, creativity comes in all different shapes and sizes and forms. It doesn't mean they have to be able to draw a Picasso. Part of being an entrepreneur is figuring out how to get from point A to point B the fastest. And good entrepreneurs can figure that out, and that's a key. So creativity comes in like, well, how do I speed up this process? How do I get my 2-year plan into a 1-year plan? And the way that I attack things, we had a company called Marquis Jet, and I started this company with my partner. We had no aviation experience, we had no money, and we had no airplanes. And we built that company into a $5 billion enterprise that we sold. And when I was looking for my first customer, back then, there was no sophisticated sales system. There was no way the only way I could get a customer to sign up to buy time on our airplanes was to go to where wealthy people that could afford it hung out. And I actually got my first customer at a coffee shop. I flew to the TED conference in Monterey, California. I didn't have a credential. I couldn't get in. I was hanging out at a coffee shop, and I realized that everybody from the conference would come in and order lattes and muffins every 3 hours. So the next morning I woke up, I was the first one at the store. I bought all of the muffins from the store. I controlled all the muffin inventory in Monterey, California. And when the first wave of customers came in, a gentleman asked for a latte and a muffin. The gal said, we're out of muffins. And when he was walking out, I said, I'm sorry, I actually have a muffin. If you want one. And we struck up a conversation. He was my first sale ever. Now, that wasn't in my business plan. Go into a coffee shop to find your first customer. That was just a creative approach to a key principle of being an entrepreneur, which is do not negotiate your goals. My goal was I had to get people to sign up. And at whatever way that I could do that, that was my playing field. So creativity comes from just, going to the end of the movie, what's my goal? What do I want to get done? And then figuring out, how do I get there? The script changes, the plot changes, but the end of the movie, that goal, it's unwavering. And the creativity is drawn from the goal.
So let's talk about that goal, because I've spoken to so many experts, so many motivational speakers, so many people who focus on kind of like the steps to success you need to have as a business owner. One of the things they mention is to keep your eyes on that prize, right? To know what the ultimate goal is and find some way to get up there. There are other experts out there who say, you know what, you have to focus on the intermediary steps, one step at a time, and build and build and build, that sort of thing. How exactly then do you reconcile those two kinds of schools of thought? This idea that you have to have one ultimate goal and do whatever it takes to get there, and others who say, hey, take small steps, one step at a time, get out there, and that's the way that you build towards that ultimate goal that we were saying. All right, so I guess maybe put it another way, Jesse, I'm trying to figure out whether or not we say you have to find this particular goal as the main reason why you want to conduct your business, as opposed to saying, you know what, I'm going to build towards it at some given point in the future. I will get to there. And I don't exactly know how folks out there can reconcile that difference, knowing those particular signs. And that's going to be one of those big things that you have to focus on as a small business. That's one of the reasons why it's so difficult for people to say, hey, that mindset is one that I really want to get into to have that winning mentality. That winning mentality has so many different ways of basically getting there. And that's the part that I find difficult, coming from a small business family. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons why it's such a big deal.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I think that the small business world is being tested like it's never been tested before, obviously, and you have to have the flexibility to move in different directions. For example, I mean, you look at what restaurateurs have had to do in terms of setting up curbside pickup and delivery, or retailers. My hardware store in town here, I've got a great relationship with them. I would go out of my way to do business with them because I like them and they serve me very well. But they're only letting a couple of customers in at a time. And that makes me, A, want to be their customer even more because I know they can't serve the same number. They don't have the same amount of throughput in their business that they had before. And I want to go there and patronize them. So it really is important, it seems to me, that businesses be adaptable, which they are. This is what small business people are. They are optimistic by definition. Small business people and even big business people are optimists at heart, or you wouldn't ever do what you have to do to build a business and make it thrive. And the other thing is you really have to have a tough stomach, because this is a hard time to get through. There is pain. There are probably pay cuts involved. There may be loss of longtime workers involved in some of these things, but it is part of the dynamism of small business, which is in so many ways the real beating heart of the American economy. We on CNBC, as you know, Dom, we spend a lot of time talking about publicly traded companies and big companies, and they are important and they are really engines as well. But I would say the beating heart of the American economy are the small business men and women who are inventing things in their homes, inventing things in their garages. Maybe they have a storefront, and those are the folks who forever have really led the way.
So perhaps there is, Tyler, one word I've heard more associated with the small business mentality than just about any other word I've heard out there. And that one word is perseverance, right? This idea that you have to kind of know what you want to do, know what your ultimate goal is, and do whatever it takes to get there. I know that the perseverance side of things is important because I came from a small business family. My mother and father had to grind it out for years trying to build up something on their own, literally from the garage. And I was part of that. I remember the paper cuts I'd get on my fingers from folding corrugated cardboard boxes during the summertime in my dad's warehouse. And all of those things go into that entrepreneurship type mentality. So The difficulty right now in this type of age, in this type of environment, is not just the perseverance aspect, right? Because you know, even in optimal times, it takes a lot of hard work and fighting through hurdles and obstacles. But right now, when you have such a massive, unprecedented, in many ways, shutdown of the U.S. economy that happened over the course of the last several months, and then to emerge from that, then it becomes a big deal. And perhaps that's the reason why you want to kind of look a little bit more at some of these types of mentality issues. It's about the defeatism. How do you overcome that? And that might be one of the reasons why this is such a big deal for small business owners, trying to get over those negative thoughts. And I wonder whether or not there is a plan or a mentality that you have to overcome that sort of thing, the pessimism and the negativity that will inevitably creep in, Tyler.
Yeah, absolutely true. Dom, we're going to leave it there. And I know when I get back in the office, you and I are going to have a good conversation about how exciting that PGA golf tournament was. Dom is about a scratch player in golf. That young fellow, he may be the face of golf's future.
I doubt that. But we can certainly talk about the U.S. Open at Winged Foot coming up as well, Tyler.
All right. Thanks very much, Dom. We're going to welcome back now Jesse Itzler, with apologies for having some trouble with his audio earlier today. Jesse, welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. And let's continue the conversation just for a minute or two and get you to try and identify the 2 or 3 things that you would tell small business owners to do now, day to day, to get ahead and stay ahead of the curve.
Well, I think the first thing is it's a unique time and people have a little bit more time. People aren't commuting now. They've freed up some time. It's the right time to obsess on your customer. So I'm taking inventory. I'm thinking about, I'm the ultimate customer. I buy infomercials. I buy things off of ads. And I'm taking inventory on which companies are reaching out to me as a customer. Who is contacting me? Which friends are calling me to see how I feel during this time? I'm taking inventory. And I want to be remembered as a business owner during this time as someone that cared the most. I want people to be like, my company or me as an individual, as a friend, as a son, reached out and asked and cared and showed that I genuinely cared about my customers. So for me, you know, even if you just take as a small business owner 2 or 3 minutes a day and send 3 to 5 DMs or texts, over the next 30 days, you're going to reach 100 to 150 customers that you might not have if you did. If you invest 10 minutes a day and hit 10 people, you'll reach 300 customers or potential customers, or maybe it's jobs that you want to interview at. So really taking advantage of the cumulative nature of time right now and being consistent on reaching out to your customers and obsessing on that. This is a great time to do it. It's a great time to stand out and be known as a company or as an individual that cared the most during this time. I think there's a unique opportunity.
So if you do that, I take your point. If I do follow your advice and I reach out to 10 customers a day or 25 customers a day, what do I ask them? What do I want to learn from them?
I don't like to ask really for anything. For me, a lot of times when I check in with my customer, I have a business called 29029 where we rent a mountain and folks hike up the mountain. They take the gondola down until they reach the equivalent of Mount Everest. We called all 1,000 customers. Check in. How you doing? How you feeling? We're thinking about you. Are you training? How you managing? Not even asking for anything in return. I just think it's a good time to say, hey, we're thinking about you. Thank you for being part of our family and our community. So for me, that's one approach. It's also another approach to say to survey people and ask people, you know, like what could we provide more of during these times? My point is, it's the time to stay connected because a lot of people during this time go into a bubble. They go into a shell. A lot of us are in survival mode. We're not thinking it. So just to know that XYZ company is thinking about me and cares about me as a customer is important. And it sounds obvious and it sounds so simple, but how many people reached out to 300 customers in the last month or 1,000 customers in the last month? How many people are really saying, you know, it's important for me and for our brand to be known as a company that's really thinking about you? And it goes a long way. At least it does for me. Because look, when I was a kid, if I may for 1 second, I slept on 18 different couches trying to make it in business. 18 different friends put me up, going couch to couch, trying to figure out how to make it in the music business, which is what I was doing at the time. And I had no marketing budget. I had nothing, zero. I wrote 10 letters a day, 10 handwritten letters. That was my marketing plan. I sent 3,000 handwritten letters in over a 1-year period. And it was the greatest marketing strategy ever. Because you know when a kid gets a handwritten mail and the mailman comes and they open it up, they go crazy. The intent, when you actually have to get a letter, write it, get a stamp, lick it, go to the mailbox, right, mail it, it's different. And it works, man. It works.
It's really, to your point there, as we wrap it up here, Jesse, and thanks again for sticking around with us, it's really the outreach and the touch that matters far more than anything else there. Letting the customer know that you're thinking about them and that you care about them and that you want them back. Jesse Itzler, thank you so much. Continued good luck in your various ventures, and we hope the Hawks, the Atlanta Hawks, do well next year. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.